Well, hello, good morning. I think it's still morning. I haven't actually got my watch on, but I thought I'd say a quick hello on here this morning. Firstly, because I've had a few messages from family members, friends, asking, will my holiday still go ahead? In my opinion, I mean, what my opinion is worth, I don't know. Will their holiday still happen? And also, I've seen a few posts, a few questions from friends, colleagues that work in the industry who are worried about the future of their jobs. Well, firstly, let's not forget the fact that Boris hasn't made his announcement on plans for international travel, and that task force won't report back until the 12th of April. So everything that you're hearing and reading at the moment is pure speculation. And I'll tell you in a minute why that's happening. So nobody knows the answer, clearly, if you're going to be able to go on holiday this summer or not. We don't know because none of the official evidence is there. But why do news channels then, and why do newspapers keep reporting about holidays back and forth? Well, I've got my own theories about this. And if you listen to my podcast, Table Conversation, by the way, if you haven't listened yet, I've harped on about this for a few episodes, or some of the episodes anyway. And yeah, the reason why they report this kind of thing, if you imagine that they've got hours to fill at the moment on all the TV news channels, the newspapers have got pages to fill, and there's not that much happening in the world apart from COVID and all those human interest stories. People, I don't know, some of the stories that are around the world about groups coming together for events, all those kind of things aren't really happening. International terrorism is at a low point at the moment, so that's not happening. So all the things that they usually use to scare us aren't there. So they've got to come up with something that fills the hours and fills the pages, and there's a reason why they need to fill all of that time. And you can always see the route back, which is money. And holidays really at the moment are the hot topic because it's getting towards summer, and when you ask people out on the street what are they looking forward to returning to most about normal, everyone's saying holidays, and so they know that it's going to get a bit of a reaction. It's going to get you hooked into reading that newspaper or buying the headline or clicking on the link to read it online, or it's going to get you to keep watching the TV channel. Once they've got you there, the whole aim is to keep you there for as long as possible. And as I said, that route is money. Because when you're watching a TV channel, there's those things called adverts that pop up. When you're reading a newspaper, they're there too. If you click on a link, a clickbait link or a news headline, then you'll notice in between the story there's those advertisements. And it's really important to the news channels and to the newspapers to get those advertisers to invest in those adverts, because it pays for them to be there. It's what they make a profit out of. So simply put, it all links back to money. I mean, some newspapers actually admitted a few years ago that they were paying their journalists per click of how many clicks they got on their stories. So they're looking for stories that are going to get us hooked. And one way to hook us, as a psychologist pointed out to me, is that we have this part of our brain, which is a primal part of our brain, that is the part of our brain that protects us. And we've had it from caveman days where we had to worry about saber-toothed tigers in our back garden. Thankfully, they're not there anymore. But there are other things that we need to keep us safe. And that's what that part of our brain does. It gathers all the data and all the information to tell us about all the things that we need to keep us safe from. And some of these are exaggerated and exasperated by the media because they know it'll hook into that part of our brain, because we're like, oh, we need to know this. We need to know as much information as possible about this thing that we're scared of, because that'll help protect us in the future. If we knew where the steps of the tiger were years ago, that's what the information gathering would have been. It wouldn't have been online news and all that kind of jazz of newspapers and all that kind of thing. So bear that in mind. The route back to it is always money, and you saw it a couple of weeks ago blatantly in front of your eyes when Piers Morgan left the Good Morning Show on ITV. Their investments dropped by about £200 million overnight because he's provocative, he's love or hate, he gets people hooked in and watching for as long as possible. Whether you like him or not, that's what he achieved, and the money talked on that one. And if you think about news channels in general, it's a lot of it is just commentary and opinion. You can flick from one channel to the next, and I'm not just having a go at this because I think that it's all wrong and it's all bad, but I think that if you see it for the lunacy that it really is and you see it for the truth, then it helps you decide consciously how much of it that you want to carry on consuming. But what I was saying there, if you see the lunacy of it or the strangeness of it, I also want to say that I have an utmost respect for just some journalists, some truth-finding journalists, because they are really important people in our society, because they tell us the stories and things that we do really need to know. But this commentary, this opinion that's running 24/7 across some of the news channels, you can flick from one to the other and find a different opinion as you flick through the channels. And I just don't think that's that healthy, because even when they quote a sage scientist, it's actually just one scientist from a panel of scientists, and somebody else sitting within that panel that advises the government might have a completely different opinion. So you can't even take their word for it. Remember, opinions are worth money, and when you give an opinion on a news channel, or you make an appearance on BBC News or ITV News, Sky News, whatever it is, or you give an interview to a newspaper, there's always a fee for that interview. So again, you can root it all back to the money situation. And be mindful of the language as well, because could be, might be, possibly, there could be a third surge of COVID. It's not truth, it's not fact. I possibly might walk out of my road and get run over by a bus today. Possibly could, but yeah, it's not true. Or we might not be able to go on holidays this summer. It's might. Watch the language of what they use. And again, I'm not saying to you that you've got to turn off all your news channels or stop reading newspapers or buying stuff. I'm just saying that see it for what it really is, and then you can make a decision about what you do with that. And I don't know, bottom line is as well, I've seen the headlines change throughout the morning. It started out, summer holidays banned till July. Well, actually, it's just that the COVID law that's being voted in Parliament on Thursday will last until the 30th of June, which then gives the 1st of July date. Matt Hancock has since been on TV and said that although that is the end date of the law, foreign travel could be brought forward. We just don't know until this task force that has gathered produces the evidence to the government, so they can make the decisions about travel from the 17th of May onwards. So again, it's like a storm in a teacup, and we've been here before, because it gets whipped up first thing in the morning on all the news channels. It fills their hours, then it spreads throughout the daytime TV because it's things to talk about, fills up the airtime, gets you hooked to watching, gets the advertisers their money. And it's a circle, because then we're all whipped up into a storm, like I've seen on Facebook this morning, and when it all settles down again, we're left with that feeling for the rest of the day of this angst, this worry, this fear about what's going to happen, and then that affects the rest of our day, whereas by 6 o'clock the news channel's headlines will have changed and gone on to something completely different. So just be wary of it. That's my advice to you. On an end note, some good news, that it's tragic how many people have died of COVID-19. I'm not saying any death is less important than the other, but one statistic I did read today was that if we get to the 7-day average this weekend of 50 deaths, which is still 50 people losing their lives to COVID, it will only account for 3% of the actual deaths of the whole country. We lose 1,500 people to all causes every single day. So when you put it into that relativity, it does again widen your viewpoint about the information that we're being given. So hold in there, try and keep positive. And one way of me keeping positive and keeping upbeat is limiting that amount of information that I consume, or not even information, that amount of opinion or commentary that I consume. Well, I've gone on for far too long now. If you like listening to me, you want to listen to more, get onto your podcast apps. I've got 17 episodes now of Table Conversation available across all your podcast apps, and my website www.iamcraigstory.com. If you are my friend and you're watching this, I really do hope to see you soon. Can't wait for hugs and all of that to come back. And if we're going by data and not dates, it should be coming back sooner, because the data's looking really good, but the news just won't tell you that, because it won't keep you watching. See you soon.